First tonight, the Premier League have toughened up their owners and directors test to include the disqualification of any individual with a record of human rights abuses. Premier League clubs unanimously approved the changes at a shareholders' meeting with Chief Executive Richard Masters today, with the changes coming into immediate effect. However, they are still subject to a review by a new independent oversight panel. What does it all mean? Here is Kaveh Solikol, our chief reporter. Significant changes or not significant?
I think on paper they are very significant. Until today, if you wanted to own or be a director of a Premier League club, you basically had to prove that you hadn't been dishonest in the past and you hadn't been sent to prison for at least 12 months. Now today, unanimously, the Premier League clubs have agreed to update, strengthen and beef up their own owners and directors test. And what that means is that if you are an individual or a state who has been sanctioned by the UK government for human rights abuses, you will be disqualified from owning or being a director of a Premier League club. Also, if you have been found guilty of offences involving violence, corruption, fraud, tax evasion and hate crimes, you will also be disqualified from being an owner or a director. And going forward, I think it is significant because everything so far has been done behind closed doors. There's been very little transparency. But the Premier League saying today, going forward, there's going to be much more clarity and much more transparency. Also in takeover processes as well. So, for instance, if the Glazer family do decide to sell Manchester United, the Premier League are saying that the material they ask for from a new owner, that will be published and there will be a lot more clarity and transparency in that process. So going forward, if, for instance, Sheikh Jassim or Sir Jim Ratcliffe decides and agrees with the Glazer family to buy Manchester United, then they apply to the Premier League for the owners and directors test. I think the Premier League will release what they are asking for from the new owners, and there will be more transparency in that process.
A quick thought. I can imagine a lot of people listening to this and thinking, does this affect the ownership of Newcastle? Does this affect the idea of Qataris taking over Manchester United?
On paper, I don't think it does, because, for instance, I'm not aware of anybody involved in the ownership of Newcastle United, whether you think it's individuals or whether you think it's a state. Nobody has been sanctioned by the UK government for human rights abuses. And, for instance, when it comes to a potential Qatari takeover of Manchester United, I'm not aware of Sheikh Jassim or Qatar are being sanctioned by the UK government for human rights abuses.
OK. What reactions have there been so far to what the Premier League have announced?
Well, I think it's been mixed. A lot of people are thinking, OK, this is welcome, but will it actually have teeth? We contacted Amnesty International for a response, and they said to us, it is a step in the right direction that human rights and hate crimes are now being considered, but it'll make little difference unless powerful individuals linked to serious human rights violations overseas are definitively barred from taking control of Premier League clubs and using them for state sports washing. Would, for instance, a future bid involving Saudi or Qatari sovereign wealth funds be blocked by this rule change? It's far from clear that they would. Top-flight English football still risks becoming the sports washing toy of authoritarian figures around the world unless the Premier League gets this right.
So overall, how big a change in a nutshell?
I think it is a big change. On paper, it is a big change. We have to wait and see whether the Premier League actually acts on this, whether they have the teeth to actually disqualify and bar some very, very serious and rich individuals who want to own Premier League clubs. But on paper, as Amnesty say, it looks like a step in the right direction.